Mama used to dance for the money.
What a coincidence. Our next guest was born on a wagon of a traveling show. Crawford County Commissioner Christopher Soff joins us this morning. Good morning. Good to see you this morning.
Good
Look at
morning.
that sunshine.
Beautiful drive over. Great. Nice to see you. I just don't know what to say about the traveling wagon show. It kind of took me there for a minute. But I know you love yourself some Cher.
That's
and,
right.
So that's okay.
That's right. Boy, when you get up early in the morning and you take a ride and you get to see how beautiful Crawford County is on almost a spring morning, almost.
We're getting there.
We're getting close. Does that kind of excite you?
I will say it reminds you of how small you are in the grand scheme of things. In all honesty, you look at it, you look at the sun, you look at the hills, everything, and you say, I'm part of this, but there are a lot more things greater than me, and that's we need that, reorient ourselves all the time. So yeah, it was a beautiful drive over. I've had other drives when it's not been so pretty,
Right.
but that's northwestern Pennsylvania, and we deal with it.
Is it a nice reminder that we were talking during the break that everybody's sort of cooped up inside, and now there's that excitement building.
Yes.
Like, okay,
Yes.
we're just about there.
Yes, we're not out of the woods yet, and I know I saw someone out raking their yard yesterday, actually, and I thought, that's wonderful. I'm not quite there yet, but you see the remnants of piles of snow, what's left behind, leaves that maybe you didn't get to in the fall, or branches down and things like that. Not ready to fire up the lawnmower, but it's it's coming, and you're anxious to be able to get outside and enjoy that part of your life.
County-wise, what happens this time of year? What's the switch from winter to spring and summer?
It's more honestly not from a courthouse perspective. I would say things at the courthouse generally continue on regardless of season, but from a maintenance perspective. Getting more work at the fairgrounds because you can be out at Woodcock Lake Park, at those types of things, projects that you've been working on inside because you building certain things you do over the winter months, but once that weather breaks, you're out and about, and so it really is busier for our maintenance folks, and the maintenance team just does a great job in everything they do.
You brought up a couple things here. Last time you were on, obviously, budget was a big topic, and folks like Representative Brad Roy have been posting things because I think you guys have been looking at places where you could cut and things that could be done there. Some of the things that he brought up, how do you address some of those things where I think, Woodcock was an area of conversation.
Right.
What do you say to the folks who are kind of seeing that little bit of back and forth?
Well, so I guess I'll start out by saying I'm not a Facebook person because I think too many people use it for the vehicle of just spouting off and then walking away. I don't think you have intelligent conversation via Facebook. That's my opinion.
I agree.
So I don't engage in those types of things. But when people ask me and ask us about Woodcock Lake Park, we have a couple options there. We can continue to operate it as we have and continue to lose money every year to the tune of $65,000. There was a peer-to-peer study done in 2012, and the Army Corps of Engineers, with all due respect, commended Crawford County for losing less money than other parks. And I'm not quite sure that that's an accolade that you want, that you're bad, but you're not as bad as other ones.
Right. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Let's look at the reality. Crawford County does not own the park. It's a beautiful park. We entered into an agreement, I think back in the 70s it started. The county renewed it in '99 for another 25 years. A couple years ago, we had a water tank go bad, $100,000. Did we receive any assistance from anyone? No. So the county paid for that. The waste station needed repaired. Is there any assistance for that? No. That all comes from the county. We talked to the Army Corps last fall, and we said, can you help us? Can you help offset these expenses? And they said, you know what? No. Their budgets have been cut too, and they couldn't help us. And the arrangement that they have, remember, this is owned by the federal government. The arrangement that they have with Crawford County is unlike, I think, almost any other arrangement they have with any other county save one. So we sent a letter, and we said, listen, it's untenable for us. We can't continue to operate. Sure, we're going to raise some fees this year, a few dollars here, a few dollars there. The reality of economics is you raise them too much, people stop coming. I mean, that's how that works. People suggested we do certain things, which would mean we'd have to employ more people and hope that then more people show up to the park. Now, if the residents and taxpayers of Crawford County feel that it's acceptable to continue to lose money and operate the park, that's fine. We can look into that. But I just don't know that that's the best thing to satisfy our, what we are to offer our county. And we're not talking the dam. We're not talking about the place where people walk. The county doesn't control that. We're not talking about Stainbrook Park area. That's in a similar agreement run by the Conservation District. We're just talking about the campsites and the trails. Someone suggested we charge cars to get in. $2 for every car to get in, $5 maybe if you have a boat. Well, stipulation that the county entered into a few years ago when we built the new playground down there is you're not allowed to charge anybody to get in to use the playground. So, that's something that you don't generally see. You don't necessarily see that in the conversation. So it's, I will tell you that it's our letter prompted discussion that honestly I don't think there would have been discussion had we not taken the route that we've taken. U.S. Senator Pat Toomey's coming in to talk to us next week about Woodcock Lake Park. U.S. Representative Mike Kelly's coming in on Wednesday to talk to us about Woodcock Lake Park. We have a meeting scheduled with the Army Corps of Engineers. It was supposed to be tomorrow. It's now been adjusted to the first part of April to talk about Woodcock Lake Park. None of those discussions would have happened if we just continued on the way we were and continued to lose money and not said anything. So,
is the intention for them to see what they can do to help, or
I
is
hope
it
so.
Okay?
I hope so. I hope that we walk out of these discussions with some understanding and a better commitment on the part of the federal government that owns the property to assist us if they want us to continue to manage it. And again, I know they have many, many different things that they manage in other parks. And again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful at all. But something needs to change in the way this is operated. So hopefully good things will accrue from that.
Similar conversation to what municipalities go through when they talk about swimming pools in Northwest Pennsylvania.
Yes.
For the most part, you're going to lose money on it.
Yes,
it's
right.
a hole in the ground in Northwest PA. You don't know what the weather's going to be like in the summertime, right?
Right.
But that eats up a budget, maybe $30,000 a year that just goes to, if your community has a pool. And those conversations come up. How long can we continue to, and I think, again, do you go into it knowing that that's just something you do for the community?
Right.
Or do we need to get somebody else involved in this?
The part of the beauty of northwestern Pennsylvania is the change of season that can happen weekly. Part of the downside, of course, is if your operation is dependent upon weather, you run into some challenges. And so we're no different than, as you say, anybody else. So hopefully good things will come out of those meetings. I don't know what they will be. But as long as everybody comes into the meetings with an open mind and say, okay, not can we or can't we, but how can we? How do we make it work? If there's a way that we can make this work so that the county isn't adversely affected, therefore the residents and taxpayers of the county aren't adversely affected, absolutely. We'll put a lot of stock in that and see if we can continue to operate. We're just looking for some assistance.
You're getting ready to wrap up 4 years. When you look back at it, have you based things on what was done in the past? Here's the budget, here's what we funded in the past. Do you have a map up of Crawford County to say, here, these are the big projects that we have, or here are the communities saying what their needs are and how we play a role? I mean, how does that typically? So
I do have a map of Crawford County just up in my office, just to always. It's an enormous county. We do tend to get centered and focused on our particular areas. From the commissioner's side, we really don't have in my opinion, a lot of direct contact with Beaver Township and then Sparta Township, Jamestown, the Titusville area on a daily basis. Planning office, however, has far more contact with each of those municipalities that comprise our county, because they're looking for assistance in road projects or in grants for planning initiatives, that kind of thing. My 4 years have really been focused on, there's no question, the Judicial Center project, public safety building. I want to be cautious about not saying things about prior commissioners, because they're not here to defend themselves. So but there were things that we inherited, for lack of a better word, that we managed as a team, and got expert advice on how these things can be best managed to make them the most beneficial for the county. And we've done that. So you talk about when do things get slow? Well, I've never had a slow day in that office, and I don't see that happening for the next year or so. We're embarking, as we've talked before, about upgrades to the courthouse. Those need to be done. It's not a full-scale renovation. There's no way that we want to do that, nor can we afford to do that.
But what the conversation is, you also can't afford to do nothing with that
Exactly.
building, correct?
We have, so things that you learn. When I first came on, my thought was, you know what, we're going to thoroughly renovate this building, brand new HVAC system, brand new windows, all that type of thing, because we're losing money. We've now reevaluated our boiler system, and with a few tweaks here and there, it's a perfectly fine, good system to keep. So we're moving away from the thought of spending, $1 million on a new HVAC system, which then comes with it thousands of dollars of service agreements, because now they're computer operated, and trying to regulate that type of system in this part of the world with windows that don't operate, that doesn't make sense for us. So we're going to take a concerted approach, but a minimal approach on what we need to do to bring that building up to a standard that's better for the people who come into the office and come into the courthouse, as well as the people who are there all day. So a lot of discussions forthcoming. You've got 2 floors empty right now. Bringing offices into that building where now we're paying rent. So we're going to be able to reallocate those expenses and save money on rent and utilities in those other places, and security. So it's a lot of things happening, but we want to do it, and we have been doing it in a methodical way so that we make the best possible decision we can based on the factors that are present. So
You're watching the Morning Drill on Stream Television in Armstrong and listening to it on the Allegheny News Talk Sports Network. We are here with Crawford County Commissioner Christopher Soff. And, you mentioned Facebook, a place for people to kind of go, put their thought or statement and not really back it up or encourage any sort of intelligent conversation at times. Have you found that that's easier for folks to do than attending a meeting?
Of course it is. It's easy to make a comment and walk away and just let it all fly. Let all the comments come, and then it fuels other people. And you have an issue that is comprised of 10 segments. But what someone does is take one little part of one little segment, and they don't care enough to know the whole story, and they run with that. And then, you know that exercise where you put 10 people in a room and you whisper a secret and you see what it is
Right.
like when it gets back around? Same kind of thing. People take their own embellishment, and by the time it's done, you're not even talking about the same thing, and the misinformation is so much that in my opinion, it's a disservice to the county and to the residents of the county when people engage in that type of debate, if you will. So that's why I don't.
When people, and I think you would agree that if you're going to encourage people to come to a meeting, and they should go to a meeting instead of sitting on Facebook, but what's the proper way of going about doing that? Because whether it's county or school board or city council, there's policy in place.
There are.
You can't just necessarily show up and bring up a topic. Sometimes you have to call ahead and make sure it's on the agenda. So if somebody wants to come and sit at a meeting and maybe bring something up and have an intelligent conversation or an open dialogue with you guys, what's the proper protocol?
See, and I've always felt that coming to a meeting is not the place to have a dialogue about an issue, because the purpose of those meetings is to conduct the business that we're required to conduct in an open forum. So it's work session is a little different when the department heads and those elected officials bring us information that they would like us to formally vote on the following week. But if you have a question about anything that we're doing in the county, telephone, email, come into the office, call and say, hey, are you going to be there tomorrow at 2 o'clock? Can I come in? I have a few questions about this. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. So my feeling is the meeting, if you do that and then come to a meeting, I think that's a better way than just showing up at a meeting, because that's not the time when we're going to engage in a conversation about things, nor should we, because many times people will ask us something at a meeting, and I don't know the exact answer to that question right now. I can check. Get you the information, but that's not the forum, in my opinion, to have a discussion.
And that's where it can lead to frustration if you're in attendance there and you want to know something. So you're saying the best policy is to call and set up a meeting.
Talk to us.
Have that conversation.
Talk to us. Yes, absolutely. I don't know if people are afraid to come in, afraid to talk to us. We're all open at any time, and if we're not available right at that moment, we'll make time in our schedules to talk to people. That's really the best way, in my opinion, to get answers to your questions, so that you have a more complete picture of whatever it is, whatever the issue is that is concerning you right now.
You had a pretty good understanding when you came into this role. You served on City Council, the Meadville School Board. I thought this was wonderful. Really, you didn't really bash anybody at all, because you knew that you weren't going to learn everything until you made it into that position.
That's right.
When you look back at the last handful of years, do you think you've accomplished what you thought you were going to accomplish, or did the job bring a little bit more to the table than initially thought?
In the commissioner's position?
Yeah.
I've never approached any elected office as, I'm going to go in there and these are the things that I'm going to get done. Because as we've mentioned before, you don't understand the scope of whatever organization you're part of until you get there. The county has 600 plus employees, 19 elected officials, 6 bargaining units. It is a complex organization, and I tell everybody that the route from point A to point B is not quick, it's not easy, and even though we think it should be, it's not straight. It is convoluted, and there are reasons for that. So you have to be cautious about how you navigate through it, and it's a balance. So I think my job is to make sure the organization continues on its path to take care of the citizens of Crawford County. And so the decisions that we make are always focused on that. That doesn't mean they're popular decisions many times, as anybody with eyes and ears can tell you.
Sure.
But I can look at myself in the mirror, and I know that the decisions I've been a part of were right, in my opinion, for the future of Crawford County. So that's why I can't look back on something and say, that was me. I did that, because I didn't do it. You work with the team and the resources that you have, and collectively, everybody helps us get to where we need to be. So I've been blessed to be part of it, and that's good for me. That's good enough for me.
Obviously, primaries are coming up in May, and you are running again.
I am, yes.
Is it harder for the incumbent to sit at a forum and have the information, or to I don't want to say be attacked, but to be challenged when somebody else hasn't been in that position?
You know, it's an interesting question. It can work both ways. If at a forum you're able to tell enough of the full picture that you can relay that information to the audience, then great. But if not, it can be difficult. And that's why when I ran the first time for this position, I didn't say, you guys are bad and I'll be better. You guys messed up all the way and I won't do that. Because I wasn't there. Even though I went to meetings for 2 full years before I became a commissioner, you know, I didn't have the complete picture that that group of commissioners did, that influenced their decision, the information that they had readily available. So it's quite different when you're looking at it from the outside. And that's understandable. That's the type of government we have, though. We are a representative government. We elect people to do their jobs. And that's an important part of how we operate. So always available to explain things to people. So as we move into this season and we're faced with those opportunities of this is what I'm going to do and that kind of thing, it'll be interesting to see how that resonates. And I respect everyone for for having the opportunity to be where they are.
Crawford County Commissioner Christopher Soff, good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Always a pleasure being here.
And you mean that?
Mostly, yeah.